is live. Oh, I think this is going to work all right. Just make sure. I don't want to block you. So we'll sit back a little bit. Yeah, why don't you slide a little bit? I think that. No, the other way. Sorry. There we go. Yeah. All right, I'm egotistical. I can handle it. What do they do to my system here again? These damn people, man.
So, is there anything about mentioning specific vehicles?
No. You can definitely bag on them if you want.
This is member-supported KUNV HD2 Las Vegas, the broadcast service of UNLV.
The views and opinions expressed in
There we
this
go.
broadcast
We're ready to rock on this thing. Go ahead and put the headphones on. And I'm going to have to get a different recording after we're done here because they reset the system. Sorry about that.
Russell Mays, recipient of the Associated Press Citation Award for breaking news coverage, author of Fear Profits You Nothing and Tell 'Em Anything, holder of 2 patent pendings, awarded diplomas in architectural and mechanical engineering, certification in avionics and radar system operations and development, United States Air Force, diploma in film and television production and performance, winner of the Good Citizenship Award
If you're not
for the
in a hurry,
Daughters of the
If you're not in
American
a hurry, when
Revolution.
we're done, we can go
And
back
an
to the
all-around
newsroom and I
good
can make a copy of this so I can take it home and burn it. It only takes a couple of minutes afterwards. If that's okay. Alright. I hate when the students come in and they fuck with everything and they don't reset it back to the way it is, so you come in and you're going, oh god, and I'm going, how do I set this up? Text, track. Ready? Rocking and rolling. And good morning. This is Russell Mays. It is a Saturday again on the 8th of September. And we have a special guest with us today, Loren Kiner. And Loren, say good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Why don't you step up to the mic or pull it to you closer a little bit better? There you go. He's in a very relaxed position is what's happening here. So I'm glad you're joining us today on www.therebelhd2.com, or you can check us out on Facebook. We're going live there. Hello, everybody, if you're joining us now. Loren owns, runs, and operates an auto repair shop here in Henderson, Nevada, and Las Vegas, actually. And Loren, tell us a little bit about your shop.
Well, we've gone through tremendous growth. We started off with 2,800 square feet, and we presently have 20,000 square feet. We have 24 bays and 11 top quality auto techs, and front office is second to none, and we're just proud to be business owners in Henderson, Nevada.
I just realized something. You have 24 bays, and it's 24 bays, right? And how many techs again?
11.
You have 11 full-time techs, and I'm sure you have a lot of support staff too, right?
Yes.
And we were talking a little bit earlier. Of course, I grabbed the wrong card here. That you have 100 vehicles waiting to be worked on. Is that right?
We have 100 vehicles on property in various stages of repair. We generally repair between 25 and 30 cars a day.
That's a lot of vehicles being pumped out of there.
Yes, it is.
If you're taking a picture while you're looking at the studio camera, you can see he's got all his echelon markings on his shirt of all the stuff that he's achieved. Tell us a little bit what they mean. One is SAE certification. You got a lot of certifications, and which means you can work on just about anything, right?
Well, ASE is a credentialing. It's ASE, ACT, American College testing, and basically you have to know what you're doing in order to pass the test.
That's understandable. Yeah.
Yeah. Some people say that doesn't mean much because there's people that aren't certified that can repair vehicles, but there's some companies that we deal with that require ASE certification. In order for us to be a AAA authorized repair facility, it requires having an ASE master technician on premises. And in order to work on the certain areas of the vehicle, whether it be transmission or air conditioning or electrical, you have to have somebody ASE certified for AAA to endorse you.
And you have the AAA endorsement, correct?
Oh, yes.
Do you also do towing for AAA?
We don't do towing for AAA, but we do have our own tow truck. If a customer calls and says, I called AAA and it's going to be a couple of hours, and I tell them it's going to be 15 minutes, we can actually have our truck there in a matter of minutes, plus our towing is free with repairs. So if we tow the vehicle in and we do the repair, we don't charge for the towing.
Oh, that's pretty cool. We were discussing a lot of different angles of what's going on within the automotive industry. And we were supposed to have Loren with us last weekend, or the weekend before last, but I went into the hospital, and then he had family issues last weekend, so we finally got you here. But you really wanted to focus on air conditioning, correct? A little bit, talking about that and what the issue is. What's important to you, or that you think the customer should understand about the air conditioning, keeping it upright in their vehicle?
Well, first of all, you have to understand that it's an air conditioning system. In order for the system to operate properly, all the components have to be working properly. People come in for a recharge because they believe they need a recharge because their AC is not blowing cold. We do a recharge, and their misconception is that that was a repair, where if a vehicle needs a recharge, generally there's a leak somewhere. When we do a recharge, we put dye in, and what happens is as this dye circulates with the oil in the system, the leak will present itself usually at a later date, depending on how extreme it is. If it's a really slow leak, it could take a couple of weeks. If it's a fast leak, it might present itself in an hour. So what we do is we kind of put a package together for them where they come in for the recharge, and then we have them come back to recheck at no charge to find out where the leak is. Now, if you have a leak and the Freon is lost, there's a cost involved in that, and a lot of people don't understand why there would be an additional charge to recharge a system that you already recharged.
Oh, because of the Freon, to put more Freon back into it. Now, you did mention something just now that I'm curious about. You said when you are recharging a system, first off, I just wanted to say that his shop is at 1251 American Pacific Drive, Suite 100 here in Henderson, Nevada. And you can call them at 5053.
568.
What did I say?
586.
Oh, I'm dyslexic. I better repeat. Better you might want to say it to make sure. 702-568-4053. Okay, give them a call. Or if you want to chime in and ask questions about automobile, the studio number is 702-895-3915. And what I was getting to about the Freon, you said when you put Freon in the system, it mixes with the oil. What oil is it? The oil that like lubricates the compressor, or
Well, your compressor has a crankcase just like your engine does, and there's a specific amount of oil that's required to lubricate all of the components. When refrigerant is lost, refrigerant oil is lost as well. Now, there's different levels of refrigerant oils. There's just a standard R134, and then there's the full synthetic. We prefer to use the full synthetic because it gives better protection at the higher temperatures. But when we do a recharge, we also replenish the oil that we try to estimate what is lost, because it's hard to estimate something that entered into the atmosphere.
oh, that's pretty good. Now, just so we can get up to speed on this and how an air conditioner works, I understand the proverbial physics of it is when you suck. Let's see, how can we put this? When you pull air from one area fast, it drops the temperature of that air, and that's what a compressor does. It like makes a vacuum and drags the hot air out really fast, dropping the temperature of the air, which is blown into the automobile compartment. Is that correct?
Well,
Something like that.
There's a change of state that takes place in the condenser, going from a high pressure gas to a low pressure liquid. But basically, there's so many components that are required for that to take place. So you have your air conditioning system with your condenser, which your compressor is pulling the refrigerant through. But you also have either a fan clutch or a cooling fan that is required to keep that refrigerant flowing through the condenser. And that's another aspect of the AC system that often gets overlooked.
There's, you look online, and we're going to also get into people doing DIY, do-it-yourself repairs, which is getting to be a real issue nowadays with all these new cars. But you look online, and it shows an air conditioning system very simplistic. And I think that is the rub. And it's not that simplistic because it has to work in unison with the rest of the vehicle, right? Or there's more components than they say. Compressor, condenser, radiator. I guess there's a little radiator in there or something like that too, or something like that.
Well, there's a condenser in the evaporator core. But if you're a company selling to a do-it-yourselfer, the last thing you want to do is complicate things. So if you make it look simple, make it look easy, make it look affordable, then you're going to be able to sell that person the product. Whether or not there's a favorable outcome, that's yet to be seen.
That makes perfect sense. It really does. Now we're going to get into an area that I really have a burr in my side about. I really do. And it's the new Freon that they're coming out with. And the reason why I have an issue with it is I just bought a 2017 brand new vehicle. And over the course of time, I was looking through it and I says, what do you mean? It's flammable. And it's very expensive to have fixed. Are you able to, and it's called HFO1234YF is the chemical refrigerant used in these new cars. I also heard that you need to have a special machine for it, and there's a whole new process. All the connectors don't fit with the old R34 or whatever they have. What's the deal with this?
Well, the EPA dictates standards, and the auto manufacturers try to keep up with that. We have the latest RY1234F machine. It's very expensive. The
Yeah, I heard it's like $10,000 for the machine or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And we actually have 5 or 6 shops in the valley that bring their recharges to us because they don't have the machine. But we have the technology and we have the capabilities to perform all those repairs. Now, what they're seeing right now is, and what we're seeing is, I don't know how long term the testing was on the metals and the composition of the components for this system, because I don't think that they just filled older systems with this chemical without extensive testing. But what we're seeing is on 2015, 2016 Chryslers, which is Daimler Chrysler, we're seeing a lot of evaporator core failures. I don't know
what's failing on them.
Well, basically, what they're leaking. I've looked at a few of them, and it's hard to tell if the evaporator core is not capable of handling the pressure, if the sealing process or the welding of the evaporator core is not compatible with the pressure from the new refrigerant, or if it's corrosive, because basically a leak starts on the inside and goes to the outside, and there's no chance of any form of impact because this is in the dash. So, and I don't think there's been any kind of recalls because it's not a safety related issue. So people with...
What do you mean it's not a safety related issue? I heard now, because I was reading up on it, is that the new Freon is mixed with propane. And it has either propane or natural gas. I think it's propane. And that is a concern within the passenger cabinet. If there's a leak, there's a special test you have to do while you're pressurizing the condition for this new Freon to make sure it's not inside the customer's compartment or the auto compartment.
Yeah, passenger compartment. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of processes being developed as far as testing and evaluating, but this is one of the pattern failures that we've seen over the past 3 or 4 months. And a person with a brand new car, 2-year-old car, I don't think they're going to sit still for not having air conditioning when it's 120 degrees outside.
That's exactly right. Okay, so because of this, I don't know why it concerns me so much, because I just, first off, you have gasoline in the engine, then you have motor oil in the engine. Now they're installing a new flammable thing, and it says right on my engine compartment, this is flammable, please do not have an expert do it. And it's got the little flame picture, and I'm going, are you kidding me? This is air conditioning. First they had the issue with the R34, now they're moving it up again. What would you suggest for somebody that has a brand new car? Because you said it was a Chrysler that has the issues right now, right?
Well, this was a Dodge Charger that we did yesterday.
Oh, and it still had the failure issue?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
2015.
What would you suggest for the customers to do to service and maintain to prevent a lot of this? Is there anything that they can do?
Well, at the factory, Chrysler puts dye into the refrigerant, and it's a little difficult to see with the naked eye, but you can see it. And in this particular case, you could see it on the bottom of the floorboard underneath the car, not in the passenger compartment, because there's an evaporator drain, and as the dye comes out, refrigerant oil comes out as well, so it'll carry the dye down to the drain. So it'd probably be a good idea, if you have one of those cars, on your oil changes, to ask the service writer to make a note to check to see if there's any dye present, because if the car is still under warranty, the dealer will perform the repair. Once it's out of warranty, unless you have an extended warranty, it's quite a costly repair.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing. What color is the dye? Can a person see it, or?
It's a green. It shows up really well under a dye light. Yeah, but and with yellow glasses. But it's like the
yellow glasses.
Yeah, we use the special glasses to see it.
It's nothing like you see on the TV commercial. These technical glasses can see the eagle or whatever it is. Something like that. Wow, that's interesting. So if they see it, what happens then?
Well, if the vehicle's still under warranty, I would get back to the dealer as soon as possible to get the repair covered by their factory warranty.
Okay. All right, so now that's pretty much the air conditioning, is there anything else that they should be worried about at this time? Because right now, you were talking about schools in session. Um, the workload in your shop is still increasing quite a bit, and you said it was usually drops off at this time because they got to get the books for the kids and shoes and stuff like that. What do you think the reason is for this? Is there?
Well, really, the only thing that I found in this valley is the only thing that's consistent is that it's inconsistent. And people, unfortunately, there's people that give our industry a bad reputation. And the norm of this industry is 33% customer retention. If an auto repair shop is retaining 33% of their customers, that's considered an industry norm. We track our repeat customers monthly, and we're a little bit over 90%. And we don't do any advertising, so the bulk of our repair is referral. And I take personally 5 to 6 calls a week from people that were referred by other customers without the having to have a coupon or some way to lead them in on a pretense that they're going to save money versus the fact that they're going to get good quality auto repair work. When we do a oil change on a car, in about 90% of the time you get a factory oil filter the same as you would at a dealer. And for us to perform that oil change with the level of technicians that we use, it costs us about $30 out of our pocket to do a $24.99 oil change based on what the rack time is, the cost of the goods. But it also gives us an opportunity to inspect our customer's car and make recommendations so that they have a positive ownership experience.
Wow. Because I do want to get that in there, but there is something that I forgot to mention before we move on, before my brain goes, I'm getting old, so I forget a lot of things. The new Freon, on I believe it's a 10-gallon tank that you can buy at your normal store or whatever.
10-pound.
10-pound tank is $873 compared to a 10-pound R34, which is like $25. That means the gas they're putting in your system is going to cost. Just to forewarn you folks, if you have to have the new system refurbished, it's usually $100 if you have a regular air conditioning. With this new Freon, so check your car, the newer cars have it, it's going to cost you around $400 to $500 if it needs to have the system done. Something you should be very aware about, especially here in Nevada, and people use their air conditioning a lot. How do you deal with something like that? Someone comes in and, hey, check my air conditioning. Oh, here's your new bill invoice, $300, but you just put some Freon in there. I'm sure you have that conversation a lot.
Yeah, we have to invest our time into verifying where exactly the refrigerant is going, because we're not going to do a $300 or $400 recharge on a car that's known to be leaking, knowing the customer's going to leave, especially since a lot of these cars don't even, the capacity is less than 1 pound. Some of them are 9/10 of a pound, which means that there's not a lot of refrigerant going in. So if there's not a lot of refrigerant going in, it doesn't take long for it to leak out. So we have, in some cases, we have to remove panels to gain access. For instance, on the evaporator core, we have to remove components that are on the evaporator core box in order to take a borescope, which is a camera with an extension on it, and look inside that box for any signs of dye or any signs of leakage or oil to verify what we're going to repair or the recommendation we're going to make for repair. Because once we repair the vehicle, then we're responsible. Our warranty is 2 years, 24,000 miles, nationwide parts and labor. So it's great to have that in your pocket, but if the vehicle returns to our shop, then the warranty basically falls on us. If you're traveling, then it's a nationwide program, so somebody else will assist with the repair financially.
Now, is that warranty yours through your shop, or is it something that it's like, because I know shops have these conglomerate warranties where the customer can be part of it. So if you're out of state, it'll be covered because of the work that you've done. Or is it something different?
It's an auto care network, and basically you have to be accepted into the network. You have to qualify, and then you pay a fee to have that coverage.
Is it better to go through like AAA on that, or what do you think? Is there anything like that available?
Well, we have AAA as a backup. That's not our primary carrier, and we also sell and administer extended warranties. So if somebody had a used car and they wanted to buy a warranty to cover future expensive repairs, we can actually sell them that warranty and administer it right through our shop.
Oh, that's pretty good. All right. We're going to be getting into something I know this is long and dear to your heart. And we mentioned it a little bit the DIY people, the do-it-yourselfers, especially with the newer cars that are coming out. You mentioned briefly that when you're online getting stuff, they make it sound so easy to do. Oh, there goes my lights again. It's a sensor. On the average, it goes off twice every show or whatever. So anyway, they make it sound like it's online. It's really easy to do. Here's your part. Take it. And what is that one that I see the commercial for? RockAuto.com. I don't want to bag on them because I know their parts are all right. But if you don't know how to install the parts properly and the procedures to do that, you could really mess things up. And I guess you were just telling me off air that you have people coming in with this kind of an issue. What would you tell them? Someone comes in and says, I can't get it installed right. What's the matter? What's going on? What happens then?
Well, there's a certain level of expertise that's required to do auto repair. The Rock Auto, they have a product to sell, and they have to make it attractive to their consumers. So we had a customer that bought a front end control arms and front end parts for their car, and we had given them an estimate to do the repair, and they bought the parts online, and they were going to do it in the driveway, and got about a third of the way through it and realized there was no way that they could complete the repair. So we had to send our tow truck to their house, pick up the car, bring it to the shop, put it on a lift, and complete the repair. One of the biggest issues that we have with do-it-yourselfers is they have to understand that whoever they bought the part from is only going to warranty the part, and there's no way they can possibly always guarantee.
Hold that thought there. That music means that it's time for a quick break to help our sponsors out a little bit. This is Russ LeMays and Loren. Be right back in a moment.
Unsafe sleep conditions cause serious injury and even death to infants. Never sleep with your baby on a sofa, in a chair, or in an adult bed. Protect the baby you love from becoming a tragic statistic. The only safe place for your baby to sleep is alone, on its back, in a crib, and in your room. For more information, visit cribsforkids.org. That's cribsforkids.org. This message is sponsored by the Division of Public and Behavioral Health, aired in cooperation with the Nevada Broadcasters Association and this station.
This is member-supported KUNV HD2 Las Vegas, the broadcast service of UNLV.
Thank you very much, and we are back. We're sitting here with Loren Kiner from Imperial Auto. And let's make sure it's right. Imperial Auto and Truck Service Center. And best way to find them here in Nevada, or Nevada is in Henderson, of course, right next to the DMV on American Pacific Road. Drive. There you go. So look for all the cars and people yelling at the state. And if you have a problem with your car, take it over to Imperial right next door, and they'll fix it while you're waiting there. So, all right. Go ahead. Continue on where we were at with the DIY.
Well, basically, if there's a fitment issue with the part, and you come in and you've done a self-diagnosis, and you ask us to install a part, then you're responsible. You're the ball carrier. We can't possibly be responsible for a misdiagnosis. On the other hand, we always offer to verify that your diagnosis is the right one, because if we have a fitment issue with the part, and it's on the rack, there's a cost involved in your car being on our rack, waiting for you to get the correct part for the car. There's quite a investment required to own a auto repair shop, and it's not an easy task. There's a lot of things involved, so always consider that when you're attempting to do your own repair.
Have you ever had to, someone brings it in, like you were talking about the front end, and you look at it and say, look, we've got to start from scratch here. We have to get a whole new front end because of this is messed up or whatever. So not only did it cost them for the part they got, the time wasted without a vehicle, now they have to start from scratch again and get it done right the second time, I guess you want to say it.
Right.
It's so hard because people are trying to save money nowadays because vehicles are very expensive and to get the work done, and it's hard for you guys because if you're running a 24 bay, you got to think about this, folks. That's 24 vehicles in his shop with 11 technicians, and that's a huge overhead to be carrying. So the volume of vehicles they got to bring in there has to be fairly high. Plus, they have to do the work right to keep that the lights on, if you will. So is there like a hierarchy within your technicians, like your head tech, your next tech, your system techs, and do you have like a tire changer person, an oil change person, or how does your operation work to help these people that, how do I want to say it? People are trying to save money. Is there a way that you can help them save money by coming to your shop instead of them doing the DIY style? I mean, is there a way best to say, no, don't do that, just come and let us do it? Or is there a good way to answer that question?
Well, when I get a referral, I always offer I want them to come in and let us evaluate the vehicle for them, just to make sure that everybody's on the correct path to ensure that they have a positive vehicle ownership experience. So basically the way our shop is set up is we do have a lube area, but we have qualified technicians in that lube area. We don't have entry-level technicians. We have one technician that is a 30-year General Motors experience.
That's impressive.
So when you're getting your oil changed and your car, what we call it a PMI, it's a preventative maintenance analysis, and we have one of the principals of the company, Joe. He's down there with the guys working to ensure that the car is inspected properly, and we're making all the correct recommendations to ensure that the reliability of the car. Then in our next area, which is pretty much our heavy line area where we do the engines and transmissions, we have a tremendous amount of experience from a Volkswagen, Audi, European specialist to a GM diesel specialist to a...
Is there a car you cannot work on because of the car itself? Maybe like a Maserati or something like that? Or are you guys pretty well certified to do just about anything that comes through the bay doors?
Well, there's cars that require a certain level of expertise, and there's some things very rarely that we won't get involved with. But for instance, like a McLaren, which is a carbon fiber car, we had to buy a special hoisting apparatus because you could actually break the car by lifting it on a rack.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I don't think because cars comes with like a lift point, that kind of thing. With this McLaren, I have to look it up. I have to see what this car looks like, and the whole body's like carbon fiber. You're saying then, right? Why would that not work with your lifts, or if a special lift that is needed?
Well, on our lifts, our basic lifts, it's 4 to 6 inches of weight distribution. On a McLaren, it has to be 18 to 24 inches of weight distribution, because where the lift points are, that can't be centralized. It has to be spread out.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. All right, then let's get into electric vehicles. Are you leaning that way to work on them, or is that a real specialized area, or where do you think that industry is heading?
Well, we do a lot of hybrid repairs, and we've done extensive classes, and we have the special tools to work on a hybrid vehicle. Believe it or not, when you're working on a hybrid vehicle, you have special gloves, and you're not supposed to have both hands on the car at the same time.
Yeah, it's the standard electrical do not
Right.
touch if you're standing in a pool of water, that kind of thing.
I know paramedics and firemen go through training to learn how to disable the car so that nobody gets injured in case of a collision. Now, on the fully electric cars, that remains to be seen. There was a class that was going to be offered by Tesla last July, but it got canceled. And on the Tesla, we're still on the hump because what happened with this industry, and I understand that they're not related cars, but like with DeLorean, where the cars were being produced and then all of a sudden they disappeared and the parts became difficult to find. And with the Tesla, a lot of people want to get in on the ground floor and be the first one and have the vehicle, but if anything was to happen, there could be a lot of disappointed people
Because of that very
vehicle
thing.
owners.
And actually, to be honest with you, that's the reason why, right there, what happened to DeLorean and when they went away and now it's hard to get parts, that's why they didn't want Elon Musk to go private with Tesla again. They wanted to keep him in the public sector on the market because they didn't want him to go the way of the dodo, in a sense. Because they're nice cars. I was shocked. They're actually very nice cars. But, oh my God, they're expensive and they're very hard to work on. Is there a real true trade-off? I don't know if you know the answer to this. I'm still trying to decide between an electric vehicle and an internal combustion engine vehicle that most people drive now. Is there a real benefit to either or?
Well, my biggest concern is if I was traveling, I think I'd rather try my luck at finding fuel than trying to find electricity.
Yeah, last time you were run out of gas in the middle of the desert, you walk down to the station, get a gallon of gas, and bring it back. But I don't think there's an extension cord that long. That's the other issue, and you have to. A lot of things are popping up now where when you go to a casino here in town, they have all where you can plug the electric vehicle in. I don't know if they charge for that or not, but I actually did. This was a while ago. An analysis between the two, because when you plug your vehicle in at home for electricity, you're increasing the cost of your utility use. Instead of putting, if you go to the gas pump, you put $40 in gas unless you drive a big vehicle or whatever it is, fill up your tank. When you take an electric vehicle and plug it in at home, if you use it on a daily basis and everything else, it'll increase your electric bill by anywhere from $30 to $80. So the trade-off in savings is not there. You're just trading who you're paying, either the oil company or the power company. Then the other thing comes down to is they got to make these batteries, and they're all lead filled, and you have to change out a battery every 4 years or something like that.
And I'm not sure on those what the life expectancy of the battery is, but one thing I am sure of is in today people are bolder and people have more of a tendency to push the ticket. And we see cars coming in all the time on E and below E. And if you have an electric car...
What do you mean by E?
Oh, well, the fuel tank is very close to empty.
Oh, okay.
Because they think they can go another X amount of miles before they put gas in.
Makes sense.
So with the electric car, if they decided, they're on their way to LA and they say, well, I can make it to the next,
Wow.
charging station, and they die out, I would imagine it's a very, very expensive tow. Unless somebody has like a porta pack, and I'm not aware of, that they plug into the car to get
You,
some
can, you
another.
can't pull up a car and
Another-
pull out the jumper cables that connect to the battery and say rock and roll.
I actually have a quick funny story.
Go for it.
We had a young lady that had her Scion towed into our shop because it quit running, and our technician diagnosed it and found that the fuel pump had failed. So we installed a new fuel pump, and about 2 weeks later, she calls me on the phone and she says, "You know what? You guys didn't fix it." I said, "Really? What happened?" She goes, it stalled out on the freeway. I said, "Well, let me send our truck. We'll come and get it and we'll check it out." So we bring it back to the shop, and there's no fuel pressure, but when we took the pump out of the tank was bone dry. There wasn't any fuel at all in the tank. And I called her and I said, "What happened is you ran your car out of gas." She goes, "That's impossible." I said, "Why is that impossible?" She goes, "I just got a new fuel pump."
Is that a true story?
True story.
True story.
True story.
It comes down to the same analogy. It says, how can I be out of money? I have checks left. That's interesting that you do that, because I'll tell you something. When I was putting myself through school a long time ago, I was driving cab in Phoenix, Arizona. So it was raining and raining and raining and raining. And I thought to myself, wow, a lot of people are going to get stuck in the water and everything else, and I'm going to get around and help them out and stuff. So I drove around and I saw this lady sitting in the middle of this huge puddle, stalled out. And I'm going, oh, okay. So I pull up, I'm helping her out, trying to get her car started and everything else, thought it needed a jump. She ran out of gas. Right there in the middle, and I thought she was just like in trouble, got flooded out. She ran out of gas. So, now I heard if you run your tank out of gas, me personally, I'm a type of person that says, no, if you're down below a half a tank, I put gas in and I fill it up. It just makes it easier that way. But does it really suck all that sediment and the bottom of the tank up through the system? Or what, does that really hurt? Or is that like a urban myth or something like that?
Well, actually, there's a lot of truth to that. It's a very valid question. The fuel pump is cooled by the fuel that's in the fuel tank. And when you consistently run your tank low on fuel or down on empty, you're basically helping the fuel pump fail because it's overheating. So I always tell, having 3 daughters, and I always tell everybody, 1/8 of a tank is empty. You don't ever drop it below 1/8 of a tank. And if you can fill it up at 1/4, that's even better. But the fuel in the tank is what cools the fuel pump and keeps it working properly. Now, if you do run your tank consistently low, most cars have a in-tank filter. Now, if there is a lot of debris in the tank for whatever reason, yes, that will plug up because that's at the bottom of the tank.
Oh, that's interesting. Got another little cute story about gasoline intake. My very first job I had was working pipeline with my dad in West Virginia. Okay, so I'm a 17-year-old kid, and every time before we went to the right-of-way where they laid the pipeline out, my dad told me to go ahead and take the 5-gallon can of gas, throw it in the truck, and let's go. So I went out there, and there's like 3 or 4 gallons, 5-gallon. Remember those red 5-gallon tanks that they don't sell nowadays, saying they're hazardous to your health and all this kind of stuff? Well, that's what it was. So I took one of them, and I put it in there, and I'm chugging away, and it's like, 3 o'clock in the morning, half-eyed, 17-year-old kid. Dad comes out, and he flips out. It was 5 gallons of water. Oh man, the good thing the truck had like a half a tank of gas in it, so it mixed with 5 gallons of water. All the way there to the job site, my dad had to stop, unhook the carburetor. This is when there was carburetors and distributor caps, folks, and had to pump it out until gas got into the system. Oh, it was just, I'll never forget that as long as I live. Something else. When I was growing up and working on cars, it was carburetors, distributor caps. You could actually climb inside an engine compartment and work on the vehicle there. That has totally changed. And because of that, is there the, how do I want to put this? What is the most significant problem that you run into on a daily basis with people when working with their cars? Is there something that always stands out? They're always running out of gas, or their transmissions are falling out, or something like that. Is there anything that you run into constantly?
Well, I would say it would be lack of maintenance. That people just aren't staying up on their maintenance. For instance, I have a friend. He recently got married, and his mother-in-law I actually towed her Mercedes in because the power steering wasn't working, and this car actually had a dual pump. Part of the pump was for the power steering, and part of it was for the suspension, and it was a $1,600 pump.
Ow!
And he said to me, he goes, well, how could we have avoided this? I said, well, the car has 88,000 miles. A power steering flush, probably at 45,000 miles, would have alleviated the need, because when fluids break down, they lose their ability to lubricate and absorb friction. And there's a term, it's called adhesion quality. When fluid is in good condition, it actually sticks to the parts that it's lubricating. When the adhesion quality breaks down and the fluid becomes too thin to protect the components, that's when you get failures, burning, overheating, scoring, things of that nature. So it's a litmus paper test, and we test on every oil service, we test all the fluids, and we make our recommendations. If a customer decides to do those services, then usually they will eliminate the need for a big major repair. But people get false sense of security. Some of the shops that they go to for like a quick lube, they're just simply not qualified to evaluate the conditions of those fluids. There's a cost involved in the, like for brake fluid, the litmus strips, you have to buy those by a tube, and it's about $20 for a tube, but it gives us a correct evaluation of the brake fluid's boiling point. As brake fluid takes on water and dirt as it dissipates, it's not able to dissipate heat properly. And there's also incorrect brake fluids. People use the wrong brake fluid. Car requires .4, which is more expensive than .3, and has a different boiling point. And then we've had people come in that put power steering fluid in their brake system and end up with a $1,000 repair.
That there is something really interesting, is because everybody's gone through the fast lube places and stuff like that, quick oil changes and stuff. First off, I'm totally a strong believer in synthetic oils, completely. I do 100%, even on my brand new vehicle when the first oil change came in, 100% synthetic. Reason why is every vehicle I have ever owned, way back, 15, 20 years, never had any problems once I started using the synthetics and doing a normal oil change and maintenance on it. Maybe that had a lot to do with it too. But when it comes to fluids, you mentioned something that was really interesting, is because when you go into the fast changes, they don't check the power steering pump or the brake fluids or that kind of thing, do they? It's just like, here's your oil, change the oil, and they check it. What would be I never thought about that, to be honest with you. So when you do those fluid changes or checks them for their, your routine maintenance, do you give everybody a list that, hey, we did check your power steering, we did check your lubricants, and then you mentioned .3 and .4. I have no idea what that means. Is it a viscosity or whatever it is?
Well, in the brake fluid, it's the temperature protection on .4. So you can use .4 in anything. .4 is the highest level of temperature protection. If you have old broken down brake fluid, it can actually lead to a spongy brake pedal. Reason being is, if you're in stop and go traffic and you're applying the brake and the brake gets spongy, it's because the brake fluid is actually boiling. So .3 has a lower boiling point than .4, but you'd never want to use .3 in a vehicle that requires .4, because the temperature protection is a requirement.
Something else I ran into, especially when it comes to fluids, and this was it didn't come across on my new vehicle. It came across on the other vehicle I had, which was a 2016 Jeep Patriot. I pulled it into, I don't, sorry to say this, but into the Quickie Lube, and they couldn't check the oil. And I says, why not? And I says, they told me that they didn't have the dipstick. And I went, what are you talking about? Just pull it out. And he showed me, pulled it out, and it was only like 2 inches. It was just a cap. So there's no way to check your oil down deep inside the engine block. What is that all about?
Well, one of the things that would make our life at Imperial easier is if people had better knowledge of their vehicles. You know, when you go in for an oil change, the conception is, you know, it's half an hour, 45 minutes, I get my oil change, I'm on my way. Well, on some of the Mercedes vehicles, we have to check the oil level with a scan tool. And we have to check the oil level with a scan tool at the proper engine temperature. And
Get into that. Explain that a little bit. Scan tool now and temperature levels?
yeah,
Wow.
with Mercedes software, so the person goes up to the counter, how much longer on an oil change? Well, we don't want them to leave without the proper amount of oil being put into the car. But on a Mercedes, if you're off by a quarter of a quart, they're going to be on the freeway, and it's going to give them a message saying the oil level's too high or oil level's too low. And then they call up and they're upset because they had to leave and we weren't able to verify what the proper oil level was. And I'm just talking about a quarter of a quart of oil.
Wow.
Also, when Russell was mentioning earlier about where you take your car to get it serviced, the average repair shop in this valley has 3 coolants. They're usually universal. If you go into our stock room, we have 14 different coolants, all labeled by the different manufacturers. Honda, Toyota, Mopar, Jaguar, Mercedes, BMW. So when you come in for a cooling system service, there might be 8 different prices based on the level of vehicle you own. A lot of places will run a special $69.95 for a coolant service, but you have no idea what coolant they're putting in. And some of the cars have the coolant has to be phosphate free, and some of the universal coolants do contain phosphates. So down the road, you may not notice a difference immediately, but when you have bimetal engines, which are partial metal and partial aluminum, and those 2 components contact each other, it's really easy to develop corrosion. And a lot of people will say, hey, how'd this happen? Well, you can always go forward, or you can't go backwards.
That's interesting that you mentioned that, because I ran across that very issue with one of my vehicles, because they said it takes a special coolant. And I went, what's wrong with the Prestone Green that I can get at any store? Or just pour it in there and away you go. Like I was saying, I'm very old school, and that's the way it used to be. But nowadays it's not. And I didn't realize that the coolant can actually, what did you call it, degrade the metals and everything else within the system. And then you have a huge problem within itself. How often does that happen, or have you seen this happen before?
We see it a lot. We see it more than we like to see it. And one of the problems you have is when you're trying to eliminate corrosion and contamination, it simply doesn't happen with one flush. Sometimes the car has to be flushed many times. Another problem you run into here in the valley is most people don't ever use their heater unless it's cold out. And what happens is you get corrosion and the coolant solidifies, and November you put your heater on, you're like, what's going on here? I'm getting cold air. Well, the coolant can't circulate through the heater core. My vehicle is new, and I run my heater every month. I run it for at least 5 minutes. I just put it on.
I've never ran my heater ever in my car. Well, I just bought it. I'm not at 10,000 miles, but still, something I never thought about, because it's hot here and you don't do it. And it's still setting in, what do you call them, the condenser or whatever it is? Or
the heater core.
The heater core. That's interesting. Yeah, we're almost at the top of the hour. The time does fly by. You did mention when we first started here that you wanted to say something about vehicle manufacturers, or bring up something, maybe what is a good car and what is a bad car, or is there something like that you want to talk about, or is there anything special you want to bring up to help the
Well, there are
City of Henderson.
vehicles that require less maintenance than, or let's say they have less breakdowns than others, but the maintenance is the key. To ensure yourself a positive vehicle ownership experience, follow the manufacturer of the vehicle actually wants you to be satisfied and be a repeat customer. They want to sell you another car at another time. So if you have a positive ownership experience, that car is going to set well with you. If you don't, and it may not be the vehicle manufacturer's fault, it may be just the fact that either on your own decision or the shop's lack of making recommendations for maintenance services, you ended up with major repairs that you really didn't want. So as far as there's a lot of families that are, they only buy Fords, or there's a lot of families that only buy Toyotas, and they're stuck on, they're a little afraid to try a new brand, but it's all in the maintenance. If you maintain the vehicle, it's going to pay you dividends.
One thing I do know, and I learned this a while ago, that any vehicle out there, unless it's like hand designed, hand built, or whatever, special vehicle or something like that, that the manufacturers have designed the vehicles to have a life of 7 years. And the reason why is because that's the length of a car loan, is 7 years. I mean, with good maintenance, you can keep it for a long time, and you see the results of this. But in general, the designers of the vehicles know how many times that piston is going to go up and down and slap against the piston wall to wear out the engine, that kind of thing. So they know how long a car will normally last, and it's the 7 years normally. So that's why people trade in their vehicles at 4 or maybe 5 years now, and they're keeping them longer. Because of the cost of the vehicles, people are keeping them. I keep my vehicle about 10 years is how long I keep them. And I try to keep up on the maintenance the best. In the last few minutes we have here, what would be the best advice you would give to people?
Your auto tech or repair shop, you should have the same relationship with them as you have with your doctor. You should have the same trust level.
I like that.
When you go in, you should always feel comfortable. Most cases, we return the old parts. In some cases, we can't because of the chemical or the weight of the part, but we always make them available to show the customer. But when you walk in that door, you should never have a doubt. Nobody likes getting their cars fixed, but we have a lot of customers, wonderful people that come to our repair shop that love coming to our repair shop. So, that I think makes a difference. Those are our blessings.
Huh?
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to ask everybody, if you don't mind, say a prayer for my wife. She's actually in the emergency room.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Severe headache. I dropped her off on the way here, and it's.
Oh, dude, now I feel bad because we could have postponed this.
No, she wanted me to do it, and I just want Linda. I love her very much, and I'm hoping they can find what's causing these headaches. Her father just got admitted to hospice yesterday, and it's a tough time. But if we can get a prayer, I would truly appreciate it.
Hear that, everybody? Say a quick prayer for, what's her name, Linda?
Linda with a Y, yeah.
Linda with a Y, and make sure, maybe I'm not a doctor, and I'm not a mechanic either. So maybe just putting the word out for a prayer will help her out. Who knows? That's the best thing that we can do for her right now. And you're going to go right to the shop after all this. Dude, no wonder you have gray hair.
Well, they're supposed to save me a donut. I hope they did.
Hear that, guys? You better save him a donut. He's going to be coming after you on that. Go ahead.
Oh, and one last thing. At Imperial Auto, we do a broadcast, but on Veterans Day, all veterans receive a free smog. You just have to show that you were in the military, and we do your smog for free on Veterans Day.
Well, what happens if my car's registration is due in August? Far away from them,
Well, smogs are good for 90 days, and you can smog them 30 days at a time, but it's a Veterans Day promotion.
It makes sense.
Thank our veterans for their sacrifices.
Okay, and last quick thing, I guess, is if you're trying to save money and you're just going to take it into a repair shop, reputation, like you said, is very important because you are at the mercy of the shop, to be honest with you. Once they have your car in there, and I've seen this happen to myself, is they get your car in there, and then they have all the tires off of it, and they have the hood up, and the air filters laying all over the part, and saying, well, we've got this problem right here. What do you want us to do? Dude, you got my car all in pieces, you know. What is a good thing to watch out for in the unreputable shops? What would you suggest to keep an eye open for?
Well, know your history on your vehicle, do your research, and make sure, first and foremost, when you walk in the door, that you feel comfortable. If there's any doubt, then that's probably not the place for you to be.
That's a good point. Let's get down to some real quick basics here. Filters. So if they pull your filter out and they said it's dirty, and I looked at mine and I said, wait a second, that looks pretty clean to me, but they're telling me it's dirty. What would you consider on a visual inspection for filters? So when you go into a shop and they do this, you know what you're looking at as a layman person, as such as myself. Is
Well,
it
the
like,
easiest thing for an air filter is just hold it in your hand and look up at the sun. If you can see light through it, then it still has some life left to it. And that's a good point about filters. One of the things I wanted to mention earlier, probably 25 or 30% of the cars that come in that are complaining about air conditioning performance, the owners of the vehicles don't even know that they have what's called a cabin filter, which controls the airflow through the passenger compartment. We find that 25 to 30% of the time those are plugged, and that's the cause of the air conditioning not performing properly.
interesting point, because not on this vehicle, the new one that I have, my older one, they kept on pushing that I didn't have a cabin filter. I'm thinking to myself, what's a cabin filter for? Why do I need this? Why don't they put it in there when the car is running, or when they're made the car? Or how can we check to see if we have one or not?
Well, I think it has to do with how they design the in-car filtration. But for most of them, they remove pollen, they remove contaminants that they really don't want you to breathe. Now, yeah, I would say that that's an essential filter that should be on every vehicle.
Okay, we're going to have to pretty much cut it short. I'm sorry about that. Loren, your Imperial Auto and Truck Service Center, located at 1251 American Pacific Drive, Suite 101, Henderson, Nevada, 702-568. I said it right that time. 4053, right next to the DMV. I'm Russell Mays. This is KUNV. I thank everybody for out there listening. Thank everybody on Facebook for joining us. You take care. KUNV, I'm Russell Mays.
Only heard on the radio.
Very good.
HD2.